All right.
Sorry about that. We got interrupted for a moment. So we're just going to kind of resume where we left off. You were talking about arrays, and you were talking about levels of arrays.
Yeah, because when I started, I kind of had that linear arrays, and I thought, well, let's beef it up a little. Like if you had like the two members in this array, it tells you how big to make the array now.
Right.
And I had like two brackets around it, and it would start up this recursion again, but like linear array notation style recursion on the length of the array now. So it really started blowing it up. And I thought, well, you could do a third level and a fourth level and so on. And I thought, well, you can turn that to a number. So like I might say if there's 5 levels, just put a 5 there. And I thought, well, maybe we can put some more numbers in there. And I come up with a way to do that. And I thought, well, if you put 2 numbers, why not 3 or 4 and make maybe a second row? And I thought of that and I thought, ooh.
Wait a minute.
A plane.
Yeah.
So I went 3 rows, 4 rows, 5 rows. Then went on. Oh, let's keep going to dimensions. The 3-dimensional, 4-dimensional, 5.
I mean, that was right up your alley because you're interested in polytopes.
Yeah, I was interested in dimensions. I mean, long before I even got array notation, I was thinking of spaces beyond dimensional spaces already, and I've come up with super dimension, which is like a dimension of dimensions.
So you actually came up with this idea of superspace before you made array notation.
Yes, I did.
That's interesting. I always thought it kind of arose naturally from array notation itself.
It was actually before. And
wow.
I was trying to imagine what kind of spaces, like how big is God, and I was coming up with all these views, like, dimensional.
Were you familiar with the
space.
concept of Hilbert space at the time?
I think I was. I was familiar with that.
Right, so you're kind of going beyond that.
Beyond Hilbert space.
Right.
So you can say that's like x to the x or something. Then I was trying to think, what about x to the x squared or x to the x to the 2? And then you have x to the x to the x, and started coming up with trimensions, quadrimensions, quintimensions, and so on.
You call those your hypernomials, right?
Yeah.
So were you working on the hypernomials before you were doing the array spaces as well? Or did that come out as a result of
that? That kind of came as a result. I was looking at a good way to label the positions, and I thought, well, we can use polynomials for dimensional space. And I thought, well, to get to the tetrational space, you would need something a little more kicky. So I started calling them, I think, hypernomials. And I thought that was kind of neat. You never read about that in schools.
Right.
No.
And that kind of goes into my next question, because this is all really wild and crazy kind of stuff. But what do you think about more mathematical rigor, let's say, in the Googology community?
Oh, I think it's important, Although not all Googologists are like professional mathematicians. They
Absolutely.
They might kind of wave their hands. I'm more like that. I kind of think of, okay, imagine this pentational space. Okay?
Right.
like 10 pentated to 100. What would that be? And I was working on the climbing method. I don't even have this online. It'd be one of my future pages called Spaces, where I'm going to describe the climbing method. And you're going to need infinity barriers on your power tower, and so you can continue this power tower past infinity. And I noticed one thing that a lot of people kind of think when you raise x to that power tower, it makes the whole tower rise. No, what happens, anything above the infinity barrier doesn't move. It's almost like if you're typing on a sheet of paper and you inputted a number over here and push this row out, nothing on the second row moves.
Right.
And they made a mistake. And I was looking at the ordinal power, how big some of these spaces are, and I figured, like, if you have x tetrated to x plus 1, it's all the way up to epsilon omega. And it reaches that far. And when you get to pentational, it reaches all the way to gamma naught.
When could we hope to have any of this on the website?
I'm hoping soon.
It's rather non-specific.
I'm hoping. I'm working on like 4 web pages at the moment.
Okay, that's cool. So we have stuff to look forward to.
Yeah, one's on elements.
One's on what?
The elements. So I've been collecting elements like crazy lately, and you probably see some in the background. And one's going to be on them, and one's going to be on these spaces. And let's see, one of them is what I call the strange glossary. It's just some funny terms that I made up over the years from my family. Some of the good examples might be goot, which is good night, or juice of orange. That's orange juice. I'd come up with these weird ways of saying words. And sometimes they're like refrigerador is refrigerator. So I love to come up with these funny sounding terms, and I thought it'd be fun for the community to enjoy seeing some of those.
Oh, okay.
And another one would be True Theory. This could be like a sequel to Why God Exists. And I've done some new thoughts on the Trinity on that. So that's some upcoming things on this. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, kind of taking it back to Googology, do you consider Googology a branch of mathematics?
I would say it's kind of like that. I would say it's not thought of as professional, but I think it's more whimsical kind of mathematics. Probably like, how would you describe this? Like,
Interesting way to describe it.
I would say kind of like, like the fun kind of math that you might see in, for like teenagers or maybe high schoolers or something, just for fun.
Mm-hmm.
What do they call it? Recreational math? I think that's what they call it.
Yeah. Actually, that was my next question. Is if you think it's mathematics, what subheading would you put it under?
I would probably think that is a good one.
Well, I kind of realized that it really falls under recreational mathematics.
It's kind of
doesn't feel specific enough.
Yeah, it's more into that zone. I guess it's more deeper than that, but it's not as.
Is it recreational computer science?
Yeah, or maybe higher version of recreational math. Recreational math on steroids? I don't know. Maybe something kind of between professional and recreational, kind of in the in-between zone there. And I guess polytopes can kind of go in there. It kind of dips into recreational, and at the same time, it kind of gets into the professional. So it's kind of in between there, really. But you can go real deep into that.
Do you know of any other hobby areas of mathematics besides Googology and Polytopia?
Let's see, other areas. I played with polyominoes too. I've seen
yeah, I did a little bit of that.
And I've looked at that, and I kind of imagine like the color wheel. I said, what would happen if you could see in 4 primary colors or something? Maybe you have a color sphere, and we would see a cross section of that color sphere, and then you have colors all out here that you've never seen before. And I figured like 2 people might see different color wheels. Like for example, let's say none of your colors or none of my colors, and there'd be like 2 wheels intersecting in 4-dimensional space at the origin, which could be neutral gray. And then imagine this 4-dimensional sphere, or what George Chesky calls a globe, and picture a globe with 2 color wheels on it intersecting in the middle. And now imagine filling all that in, that'd be like 5 primary colors. So I like to think along those 2.
Oh, I see. Okay, so there's actually a broad spectrum of different kinds of things that you can kind of do in a recreational sense in mathematics.
I think so. And sometimes like you might call the mind blown stuff, thinking things that's beyond what you can visualize. I've always got into that kind of thing.
Yeah.
The more out there it is, the more interesting I find it.
How essential do you feel naming numbers is in Googology?
I think it's fun. It just brings a fun thing. Although it might not be as essential, but I've always been the type that when something don't have a name, I'm like, when's it ever going to get named? Okay.
Right.
I even drew another reality cartoon on this when interruption again.
Sorry about that. We got interrupted again. But resume. You were saying about your another reality cartoon?
Oh yeah. As you mentioned earlier, you mentioned like naming and all that. And I kind of thought, why don't they give them names? I remember there was these dwarf planets they were finding. It took them forever to give coin names. It was like, I think they called it, here is 2003 EL61 and 2005 FY9. And I said, why don't they ever name them? I even drew this cartoon here. If you want to see it, let y'all see it real close. It is on my webpage on the Another Reality book.
I remember reading that one actually. I actually like that one.
That one, I drew that. It's funny. Not long after it was drawn, they finally named it Holmeia and Maki Maki, and I found it odd that he looks like a Holmeia. It has a kind of a redneck sound to it, and I kind of meant for him to be kind of redneck. How did that happen? And Maki Maki just sounds like a quiet person.
Well, you said why didn't they give them names? But I'm sure if you actually asked the scientists, they probably would say that they did give them names.
Yeah,
those are names.
That's license plate numbers. That's like Social Security number. Hello, and then name your Social Security number. Come over here. Come over here, 999-374-6421 or whatever.
Well, you see, that's why I think that's an important distinction between Googology and mathematics.
Yeah.
Because mathematicians only really come up with names so that they can communicate to each other.
Yeah.
It's purely functional. But Googologists come up with names for their own personal enjoyment. And you can see this if you think about if a mathematician comes up with a term, he wants it to be widespread and used by other mathematicians as a good handle for something. When a Googologist comes up with something, they're really just doing it for their own personal enjoyment. So they may not, they don't even have to share it with anyone else. It could just be their own personal creation, and they can still get enjoyment out of that. In the same way that if someone drew a sketch or wrote a story that they never showed anyone, they still enjoyed creating it. So there's a whole creative and aesthetic side to Googology that doesn't really exist in the same way in professional mathematics. Would you agree?
I agree with that. It's also the same in the study of polytopes. We're coming up with terms like polychorin, polypterin, and all this, and it's catching on in the amateur section, but in the professional, it's just not even there. And the star polytopes hardly ever get out there. Very few people kind of look at them. And
well, I think for the mathematicians, there's sort of a pragmatic side to it, and I can understand that. But for us, that's part of the enjoyment.
Yeah, it's almost like a beauty in itself.
Yes.
And it's worthwhile, I think.
All right. Now I'm kind of going to move on to the next section of questions here. And this kind of goes in a little bit into your religion, your religious beliefs, and kind of how they relate to your mathematical interests. So here's the question. Has your religious beliefs influenced the way you view Googology, or has Googology influenced the way you view God?
It's probably a little of both, really, because when you look at that, you realize, okay, how big is God? A lot of people think God's like this invisible bearded man in the sky, and heaven is this like floating babies and stuff, and just a choir you never get out of. But I picture heaven as a place where you can explore the multiverse. Imagine walking around in a four-dimensional world, and imagine like any hobby you have now, you'll be able to take it to full expanse in heaven. I've always wanted to design my own games and stuff, and I even planned one I call Ultimate Challenges I hope to make when I'm after the rapture in heaven. I've actually planned this out and thought it through and come up with levels. And I've kind of imagined it's going to be awesome. And another way the Bible describes it, like these new bodies will have these new abilities that's not limited by space and time. Like you could teleport to where you want to go, or you won't ever get hurt. So, I mean, you wouldn't want to just float around with a bunch of floaty babies. You'd be exploring the universe. And I picture, I'd be wanting to see 4 dimensions. Imagine what it'd be like holding an icosid in your hands, or one of the small swirl prisms to see what it looks like. And I even hope to collect elements up there. And would you have Aghanestan stable? Could it be stable up there? That'd be pretty awesome. And I picture it's just an awesome place, not just some boring thing. And that's kind of why I got into trying to figure out, why does God exist? And I was looking into that and trying to figure that out. And I was figuring, in the Bible it said, Jesus said, I am the truth, the life, and the way. And the Holy Spirit's the Spirit of truth. There's truth again. And knows God is full of truth. There's truth again. And I was thinking about it, truth's everywhere. And when we think of it, without truth, you could even have mathematics. The laws of truth governs mathematics, and it even governs qualia. That's things you can't even describe with language. You have to experience it, like color perceptions, and that's going to be what my truth theory is going to go into. And I was thinking of a new version of the way I had the Trinity. In my first one, I kind of thought, it's truth, existence, and essence. But I think I may have thought it wrong. And I was thinking, there's like this spark of truth. And what is that? It's like the smallest thing to ever be true. Truth exists. That's it. And it has to be true. It's almost like a word in a way. And it's like this spark, almost like a photon is with light. But I've always thought of truth like a field in a way, like it's everywhere at once, making things true. And I thought, well, truth is a field. And I thought, wait, there's a light field, which is the electromagnetic field. There's the photon. Well, there's a light wave. Is there a waveform? And I was drawing these regiment maps. I'll have to bring one of them up in a little bit, where I would show how a polytope is constructed, where you would have the vertices, the edges, and all this. And it kind of reminds me of like links and neurons in a brain. And when you charge some of them, you get one polytope. Charge it, you get another one. That's like the firing of neurons in the brain. And here it is. It's almost like truth is acting like the brain. And I was like, could it be conscious? And I was thinking how the truth of the number 3 actually goes to the truth of the triangle. It's propagating like a wave. So you have a particle, a wave, and a field, just like light. And truth is almost like a trinity. There's the trinity. And the thing that got me, this was like a eureka moment. The particle form, or the spark, is a seed of the field. Wow. And what I believe, to get to heaven, a lot of religions make you say you got to do all this to get there. And when you get there, there's just this much to do. It's just boring. All you got to do is trust in the gospel. That's
essentially the complete opposite, right?
it is. Like Paul says in Icarusia, that's one of my short names for 1 Corinthians 15, 1 through 4. And basically just trust that Jesus died for your sins and that he was buried, he rose again, and he paid for our lives with his blood, and trusting that, you're saved. You're in heaven. You'll go there when you die. And you don't have to do all this religious ritual. It's not necessary. It's just, no.
Do you even have to go to church?
Not necessary, but it is encouraged. It is encouraged to gather together, but it's not just to sing songs. It's just to fellowship with other Christians. It's been a while since I went, because I'm a night owl. I stay up to about 10 in the morning sometimes. That kind of makes it a little tough, but I hope to come back sometime. And I do believe that Christianity is more about trusting in the gospel to get to heaven, and not all this religious rigmarole. Because when you think of it, God's infinity. Okay, this is where googology comes in again. God's infinity. And our works is finite. So, I mean, no matter how many good works you get, how do you approach infinity?
Right.
You can't. You need infinity to come out and get you. It ain't going to work any other way. So, googology, I think it does time.
Did you ever read my article, Jacob's Ladder?
Yes, I have.
You like that one, right?
I like
and it
that.
has the same kind of analogy.
It's similar. All those angels had to come down and
Right.
grab you and pull you up. You can't just climb up there. It's just kind of the same
But
thing.
actually, God's actually the only one who can get you to heaven.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter which angel you book a ticket with.
Or really the only one who can give you eternal life, because I think, like when I describe the heaven, it's like, it could be everything that God's ever created. Most people think earth, hell, heaven. Well, what about the Milky Way galaxy? What happened to it? Yeah. What about the multiverse? What about other dimensions? Isn't that possible? I just can't picture it being that small or that dull. I imagine it's way.
So I basically gathered from all this that your religious views and your mathematical interests are basically inseparable.
Yeah, they're just. And it's almost like time together. And like polytopes, one reason I got into that is I was hoping one of the days I want to see that. I want to be able to hold one of those like poly twisters and see what that looks like, and roll it around on a 4-dimensional surface. Just out of curiosity, what would it be like to explore a 4-dimensional location? And that'd be like, wow. It's not possible here unless we can find a way to make it where our brain just click it in, But that might be technology a long ways down the road, But maybe when we're flying off to Jupiter and stuff in spacecraft, we don't know when that might be, but I picture that's possible in heaven.
Yeah, I've always kind of wondered if I had the option for God to zap my brain and for me to suddenly understand a number like Googleplex or Grangle, would I take the offer?
Yeah,
because I'd be going from this tiny little, finite experience to an incomprehensible high, basically. Like, blowing my mind and then blowing it again and then blowing it again.
Because there's no
Would you
end.
want to go on that trip?
Yeah.
And for me, actually, it's a bit of a question. I'm not really sure. Part of me really wants to know and understand what a big number actually feels like. But at the same time, I'm kind of terrified by that prospect.
That might be why eternal life is necessary. Because it might take you a while. Because I don't imagine I would be in a 50,000 dimensional space when I get there. Yeah. You might have start low, 4, and then maybe once you kind of get used to it and enjoy it, and just travel to 5. You know, about teleporting there, just thinking you're there. Because I imagine in heaven, your new body would be in such a way that it would form around you in an instant. So if you're in another universe, this is the way I picture it, your body would just form instantly. Because like at the rapture, it mentions it's like in a twinkling of an eye. That's a nanosecond. That's how long a light hits your eyeball, reflects off from the other side of the skin, and it comes out. That's a nanosecond or less. And that's how fast it happens. You go from totally annihilated, you're nothing but ashes all over the Pacific Ocean, to completely well in a nanosecond. That's pretty impressive healing rate. So imagine if you had that ability and went to some 4-dimensional universe, when you take on their atoms and be there and be able to. I imagine God can do anything, and He's truth Himself. It's like He's not just invisible bearded man. Imagine if truth was conscious. That is how I picture God. If truth itself, the very truth that holds and governs the laws of mathematics, the very one that governs the quality of color perceptions, consciousness, is conscious. That's what I imagine who God is. That's far bigger than just invisible man of sky. That's Zeus.
Right.
That's just Zeus. Okay? You know, it just don't work. He's much bigger, and he's personal. There's another thing I've noticed. A lot of people say, well, God deals with all these galaxies. How come He cares about me? High resolution. Imagine gongulous pixel resolution. Okay? He can see every little atom. Okay?
Good point.
Yeah, I mean, imagine gongulous pixel resolution. Truth has it. You've probably seen the Mandelbrot set. Have you ever zoomed in on it? There's a program out there on the internet you can look at and zoom in, and I've zoomed in a factor of a Google on there, and you just keep going and going, but truth governs every little part of it, and it's there forever. It's just part of the truth, you know?
Yeah, and then I too believe that truth is eternal and unchanging.
Yes.
And that in a way, the mathematical truths are kind of more essential than the physical manifestation. You know,
I think the physical manifestation, I think it's important. It kind of makes it where you can walk around and stuff. I think it's almost like a feedback effect. You know, you touch it and you can feel it. It's feedback, and that's kind of what it is. It's like imagine a video game in the year 3000 or something. You put these somehow like the Matrix or something, and you can feel and touch things. It would feel just as real. I imagine we might just be thought processes by truth itself. You know, could that be what our universe is? It's like thought processes inside of truth itself.
Well, scientists are saying we're all just fields, so.
Yeah, and I've heard of some thinking that we could be like what do they call that? Like a simulation. It could be not on a computer, but on truth itself. Something that can hold infinite number of information. No end.
What do you think, to kind of keep it on the topic of religion, what do you think about the fracturing of the church? We have all these different Christian sects, like we have the Jehovah's Witnesses, just to name an example. What do you think of all these different groups and their beliefs?
I think what they're doing, they're taking things in the Bible that don't apply to the Christian age, the church age. They're like looking at the Old Testament thinking it applies to us. It applies to the Jews.
I'll pause.
Okay.
All right, and we're back.
Okay. Yeah, kind of what I'm saying. I think they interpret things wrong. They might look at like the Jewish law and think that applies to the Gentiles, and it don't. It's like they need to realize who is God writing to. Okay, if He's writing to this person, it might not apply to us. It's like the laws of eating pork. Well, that applied to the Jewish people, not to the Gentiles. So I think what they're doing is they're mixing it up wrong, you know. They might look at things that's supposed to happen in the tribulation period and think it applies to the church age. It don't. So they're screwing it up.
But why do you think, or could you speculate on why do you think that God doesn't just divinely intervene and clear up these issues of interpretation?
That I don't know. That I'm not fully understanding, but I have a feeling he may do it before the end times. I just kind of picture he's going to somehow clear it up. You know?
So let's say someone believes instead of that Jesus died on a cross, like the Jehovah's Witnesses believe that he died on a stake. So instead of having his arms out, they believe that his hands were nailed above his head. Now, do you think, like doctrinal issues like that, is that the difference between salvation and damnation?
That might not be necessary, but I think they have some other beliefs that don't
Or
sound
questionable.
right.
Well, they, I could run through a few of them. They don't believe in hellfire,
Okay.
and they don't believe in the Trinity,
Okay.
and they don't believe Jesus Christ is God. They believe that he's an archangel that was incarnated. He's the Son of God who was sacrificed.
But if he's an archangel, how could he pay for our sins?
Well, he was perfect.
Yeah.
He's I guess he's the one perfect creation of God.
Yeah, that's kind of how they picture it, and they don't fully grasp that, you know. And I guess they're wanting to take his divinity completely out. And I think the problem is let's see, how should I put that?
And actually, just to clarify, I don't want to misquote the witnesses.
Yes.
So I'm not entirely sure whether they believe that Jesus is co-eternal with God, or whether he is actually the first created Son. But I'm going to venture a guess. I think I remember them using that phrase, first created Son, which means there was a time before Jesus even existed. Oh, but God's eternal, of course.
Yeah.
That's their beliefs.
According to the
as far as I
Bible,
can remember.
it said that in the beginning was the Word. They ignore that. And the Word was God, and the Word is supposed to be Jesus. So.
Yeah, well, they actually they changed. They have their own version of the Bible.
That's the problem.
And they changed it. It says the instead of saying the Word was God and the Word is God, they said the Word is a God.
That's the problem.
Meaning that he's separate from,
It's like you take, let's say you took a computer program, and it's perfectly made, and then you decided, let's screw this up a little bit. It messes it up. Okay. Well,
so if you don't believe that God, Jesus is literally God, then that's it. You won't be saved, right?
I think the matter is, do you trust that he died for your sins? And
Well, they certainly believe that.
They believe that.
Although they seem to emphasize works maybe more than
That's
other
another
Christian groups.
Because when they add works, this is the problem. Because they're trusting in their works.
Right.
They're not trusting in what Jesus did.
Yeah. Well, they're a very regimented church.
Yeah.
You have to wear a suit when you go to church. You have to cut your hair. You have to be very neat and groomed. You have to attend all the meetings. You have to be devoted to the church, when you go out proselytizing, that kind of thing. They take it very seriously.
Yeah, I can understand, like, if you're going to a court, you might want to dress up or something. But, I think that...
So you don't believe in having to dress up to go to church? You don't think
I don't think
God
it's that
cares?
necessary. I mean, be sensible. You probably wouldn't want to go in there without a shirt on or something. But, you'd probably want to dress decent. But, I don't think it's necessary unless everybody there's formal, but I think it might turn some people away.
Yeah.
Honestly, because God kind of reached down to the poor people. Okay. It wasn't the richest, fanciest ones. I mean, he went down to everyone. He wanted to try to win everyone.
So you believe that as long as they at least believe that Jesus died for the sins, that's the crucial belief. Everything else is sort of gravy.
Pretty much. And,
okay.
But if they trust in their works to get them saved, they're trusting in the wrong thing.
I see.
And that could be a problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what about people who completely disavow faith altogether, atheists?
Yeah, I do.
What are your opinions on them?
One thing I would say, their skeptical mind, I appreciate that. I mean, I think it's good to check it out. Check out the truth of something first.
Yeah.
To make sure it's true.
Would you consider yourself a skeptic or skeptical in nature at all?
I would say I'm skeptical to some degree, but I'm kind of a hopeful. I want to look at it like, ooh, I hope that is true, but I want to check into it and check it out. And if it looks like it's true, it's worth following and taking a look at it. So I'm skeptical to some degree, but I don't want to be so skeptical that I just want to shun it off forever. It might be worth looking into. Is it possible that we might get to see 4 dimensions in heaven? And that's something I've wondered. Well, with God, it's possible. Or would you think your truth? Isn't it possible with truth to make four-dimensional space? Yeah, we see that in mathematics everywhere. So it's obvious there. That's one of my thoughts there. But like I said, all the religious differences. I think basically they want to put the focus on their works instead of what Jesus already done.
You mean the atheists, or you mean the other religious
Oh, that's
groups?
the other religion. About
okay.
Atheists, the problem is we're already have that sin on us, and God, being truth, He's gonna be perfect.
Right.
And when He sees us in the highest resolution, not just our physical body, but inside our mind and everything.
Right.
So He can see all the sin. It's like malware. Think of sin like malware on the computer. You don't want that stuff up there, and God don't either. Okay, He wants to wipe the malware out, but He wants to fix the person.
Right.
He loves the person, but He don't love the malware. Okay, and it's sort of like that. And
so why doesn't He just save everyone then, and then work out the details later? Work on fixing them.
I think it has something to do with free will, because it's love nature. It's free will. He don't want to force it on everyone. He wants to give them the choice.
So if someone of their own volition decides that they don't want to believe, do you find that as a personal affront? Or
Not really, unless they're just trying to attack me or something.
Okay.
I know there's some that don't, and I have friends that are atheists, and
okay, so you get along with atheists.
I get along with them. I'm not really against them as a person,
Right.
And I just wouldn't want them to see them on Judgment Day on the wrong side of the fence.
So you're sympathetic towards them then?
Yeah, more along that line. I would like to see them have that kind of hope, that whoa, because they might be thinking religion is just all about religion, and it's like, no, because when God created the universe, He didn't create choirs. He created planets, the laws of mathematics, animals. Atoms. Okay, it sounded like He was into science, mathematics, and all the fun stuff, art. Well, wait a minute. Maybe there's more to this than we've been thinking. We're saying it's all about religion. No, I think religion's like getting God and just cramming them in a box and say, okay, there you are. Damn, you stay in there. No. No. Okay.
How much do you think we actually know about God? I mean, the Bible could be construed as kind of vague on His nature.
Yeah, I think there are some vague things. There's a lot of things we don't know fully. I think right now we just know a little bit. Okay, and we're kind of learning more. It's like when I came up with that truth theory thing. I don't remember people really bringing that up, and I thought, well, it just makes perfect sense. So could that be who God is? Truth, being conscious,
Mm-hmm.
And I think we know very little, but we'll know more up there,
Mm-hmm.
And right now, there's we can't visualize four dimensions, So imagine in a world